Thank you for taking time out with PSOA here. Sean Johnston, along with Monty Tilsner, bringing you Great Plains Athletic Conference training tape number 8. Monty, welcome back. Appreciate you offering services again last week. I had a lot of conversations with coaches, and I just really wanted to focus on one thing, and that was the challenge, which we'll have one play here today. But looking now that we're in beyond halfway part of this season, our crews have seen teams at least twice. Sometimes they're going to be seeing teams a third time here this week or next week. At your level, what do you do this part of the season when you are seeing a team a second time, or from official to official communication in between the weeks, you start hearing things about tendencies and fouls? How do you use that information for success on Saturday, this part of the season?
Yeah, well, we definitely use those things in our pregame. If you've seen a team before, you're going to remember some things that may have happened or some tendencies, for linemen downfield or as a deep guy, maybe specific DBs that are, a little overly aggressive and so on. And then there's always there's communications between different officials or the referees about certain problems that they had possibly with teams. And then there's also, your when you're preparing for your week and looking at game film of the teams that you have upcoming, things that should catch your eye that you might throw in there for pregame discussion, with your crew. So definitely should have some things on your radar if you've seen them a second time.
Yeah, and officials, all of our game film is shared with you. So you see games from previous weeks. I know I'll typically go into game film of teams I'm watching, and I'll try to find the clips that have that penalty enforcement and what was the foul and who fouled. Because if we can identify that, more than likely we'll see the play from the beginning, middle to the end, and our call accuracy will go up. With that being said, our first play here is roughing the snapper. So as we're playing this play, Monty, sort of what are umpires doing to protect the snapper before the snap? And then what is it that defense has to do to be avoiding roughing the snapper after the snap?
Yeah, first of all, when they're setting up, umpires, we're not going to let them set up over the center on the line of scrimmage. We know they can't do that. We're going to prevent that. And then those guys, it's not a bad idea just to get in there, especially the first time, maybe the first couple times. Those two guys that are just off of the shoulders of that center, and just remind them, they can't dive in at an angle and hit that center, immediately after the snap. So it looks like that's what happens on this play is that guy just dives right in, and that's too quick. That center does not have a chance to protect himself. So that's why he gets blown up, so much. And if they do that, yeah, that's one we got to get. So good call there by our umpire.
Yeah, and umpires right here, we're standing right where we need to stand in between the gap. And again, just a little communication reminding those players, do not go directly into the snapper. You're starting outside the body frame. Don't go directly into them. And this is a big one. All right. So a big one on a point after attempt penalty enforcement. They're going to have the option of enforcing it and redoing the try or enforcing it on the kickoff. We have a defensive pass interference, grab and restrict. Really, the purpose of this play is not really the judgment of is this pass interference or not, but working as a crew to get the spot of the pass interference and then enforcing it correctly. So, Monty, what are some tricks that you have as a deep wing that your short wing could help you?
Yeah, well, first of all, remember, deep wings, we said, set up at 24, 25 yards. So I set up where my back foot's at 25 yards. And then I know that 15 yards is 10 yards ahead of that. That's kind of how I get my barrier of where that 15-yard mark is for a defensive pass interference. It's pretty easy because it's 10 yards in front of where I'm standing and setting up. And then, This one is one, this foul occurs somewhere between here and the 45, but it's definitely before 15. I know our flag doesn't get there, and that's okay. It doesn't have to, it might not, but we should be able to get some help on this. I've talked about having our line of scrimmage help. The line judge on this play is definitely looking at it, and he might get there late, too late that he doesn't have a flag, but he definitely should be able to know that we're inside of 15 yards. He's standing right at the line of scrimmage, so he should be able to help on that part. And this is one that I would like our back judge to get there a little sooner. And I think this is definitely enough restriction that I can, it's a pretty easy foul to see and to get. So the back judge to be on this, would be good as well, I think.
Yep. And if officials remember, it was a windy day last Saturday, and maybe it's difficult to get that flag all the way up to the spot being that far back, but definitely avoid throwing that flag at players, and we do not want flags hitting players. The next play here, defensive offside, defensive delay a game, or is this a false start? The ruling on the field is a false start. We definitely do not have a look down the line. So we don't know if the defensive team goes directly into the neutral zone or not. But we want officials to use this play to remember these players are still linemen. All right. So they're still held to that same standard of both teams getting an equal and fair start. So with that being said, Monty, calling the field is a false start. What would be enough to put this on the defense if we had that look going down the line?
Yeah, so if the defense, goes forward and they're in the neutral zone and then the offense moves, obviously they're, head up or adjacent, so that's going to be that would be on the defense. If they don't get into the neutral zone, we need that abrupt movement, and that's a judgment that we need to make as officials. If we feel that this movement to the side is abrupt enough, and we really look at the arms more than the feet, and I don't see the arms moving a lot. So I don't think that would be a good call for, I'm putting it on the defense because we don't have the arm movement. I like it as a false start, but we do need to make sure that if they're on that line tight and they go forward and get in the neutral zone and then the offense moves, then we're definitely going to put it on the defense.
Yeah, so this is a good reminder of the description that we put in quick ref is going to help you get that correct call. So if you put in there, defense was not in the neutral zone, offense moved prior to snap, false start. So the foul description is going to be very important to help the graders give you that correct call. We have a unique play here, and we have a new rule about putting time back on the clock in which it was at the time of the snap when 12 players are on the field and confuses the offense. So our substitution window is closed at this point, and then we have a player who is clearly coming on and then a player clearly coming off. Originally, this is not an athletic pace. Now this is an athletic pace. Now, in regards to the rule of confusing the offense, Monty, what are you looking for to see if the offense is confused because of that 12th player?
Yeah, we actually had this discussion a couple weeks ago in our pregame as well. And on this one, we've got a player coming on and a player going off. So this 12th guy going off, being about at the numbers, at the time, that's not something that's confusing to the offense where we would put time back on because it's 11 coming on and 11 going off. So this would just be a normal substitution foul where we would not, put time back on. By the way, on this is one where we would expect a flag just from our field judge at the top and our back judge. Side judge at the bottom of the screen. If they're outside the hash opposite of you, you do not flag that. That would be two flags. And when they get outside the bottom of the numbers, it turns into one flag, and that's just that line, that deep wing. The back judge shouldn't throw if they're, outside the bottom of the numbers. But in this case, two flags would be good. Now, if that guy going off, if he was the 12th guy, so we're on the 020 and we're saying we got 12, we got 12, and this number one, 99 was already out there. So number one now, he's going off and he's number 12. Even with them there, when they snap this, that then is putting the offense at a disadvantage and confusion. So that would be one where we would put that time back on. And he doesn't have to be out there and participate that whole play to have an effect on the offense and what they do and what they see in their pre-snap reads. So that was a discussion we had a couple of weeks ago.
So just to clarify, since number 99 is clearly coming off, number one is clearly going off, they're not confused what 11 are going to play.
Yes.
And if 99 was not coming on and number one is leaving as an athletic pace, that would cause confusion because we didn't know which 12 were supposed to play.
Yep. And
Perfect.
this is, we're under one here, but this is a live ball foul, so obviously we're not going to have a 10-second runoff possibility.
A play we don't see all the time, but this is a reminder on legal kick plays and on turnovers. Neither team can block below the waist. And on this play, we're going to have an interception followed by a block below the waist during the return. So this was a great get by our umpire here. So Monty, just a reminder to the officials, how do we not miss these types of fouls?
Yeah, really good pickup by the umpire. Umpires, you don't have responsibility of that runner, and not so much the action right around that runner on this interception. So this is exactly where you can be helping out. But we probably need to open our vision with some other officials to help out on this. Referee, you've kind of got a look as well with you do not have those responsibilities. So it would be it's one we don't want to miss. I mean, this guy takes out two players. So just open up our vision if you don't have responsibility for that runner and the action right around the runner, the blocks right around the runner to see stuff like this or those blindside blocks that happen too.
And I'll always tell myself, if I'm not responsible for the ball carrier, keep my eyes away from the ball carrier. Scan the field, look for the threats.
Yeah, that's the crew saver right there.
All right. Blindside block, similar situation about if we're not responsible for the ball carrier, we have to open up our vision and look for those potential blocks, especially the bricks in the hands. So we're going to watch the sideline angle, which doesn't have the great view, but it'll give us a good example of where each official are looking and what official needs to see this block and what official could help with this blind side block. And then we'll clearly see it on the end zone view.
Yeah, so this is one the deep wing on the bottom of the screen is going to have a gunner coming down that he's responsible for, and that's why they might not pick up the blindside block that's going to be, more in the middle. So, but what we're going to have is this ball is now in possession and being returned. So remember, back judges at this point, you are not responsible for the runner, and you need to pick up blocks. And now going to the end zone view, it shows, this is one that opens up really well to our back judge, and one that we need our back judge to get this. We could get help from somewhere else. Umpire, if you don't have any action, continue to bring your eyes downfield because there's nothing else really for that umpire to be looking at. So he might be able to help out. Um, the backside wing at the top, probably not going to get it. Maybe the short wing at at the top of the screen there could, but definitely back judge is primary, and then followed up just by some other officials who are opening up their vision and to see this guy with the brick in his hand. That's a pretty easy one to predict is a possible blindside block.
Yeah. So again, avoid watching that ball when you are not the covering official to watch that ball carrier. And if that ball carrier is not in a threat to be tackled, even if you are responsible for the spot, open up your vision as much as you can. Next clip here, we have a late hit out of bounds. And in conjunction with this late hit out of bounds, we're going to talk about proper whistle usage and how whistles can help the defensive players know the ball carrier is dead by rule. And then all the players away from the ball knows the play is over and the importance of using a whistle at the end of a play.
So when we get action on the sideline, we definitely need whistles at the end of the play, and I think we probably did here. I'm sure we did. So then, if there's enough of a delay before we have that hit on that runner, we would need to flag it. So, in this case, if we had the whistles right when this guy stepped out of bounds, even though he pops back in bounds, there's enough of a time delay here that this player should not be hit like that. When we don't have a whistle or when we have a very late whistle is stuff that happens in the middle of the field where maybe we have a runner go down and the ball is not seen by the line of scrimmage official who's kind of the covering official. So they either don't blow their whistle or they have a really late whistle. Maybe they go off the umpire who puts his hand up in the air saying, I've got the ball dead. But and then there's a little more leniency by the players. But in this case, we should have had a whistle and probably enough of a time delay that a flag would be warranted here.
Yeah, and we do have the official stopping the clock, the whistles in the mouth. We don't have sound on this video, but there is a whistle on this play. But just know, officials, it has been brought to our attention a couple of times already this year. If there's an open field tackle without a whistle, players just don't know. So if you clearly see the ball down, you clearly are responsible for the ball carrier and spot. Officials, please help protect the players, let them know the play is over, and blow the whistle.
Yeah, there's a handful of times, if that we'll have a very late or have no whistle. But it should be very rare.
Now, one of the benefits of doing these training tapes for myself is continual learning. So the coach did ask me of what my opinion was on this, of the blade of grass with the receivers, and then the philosophy of when in question the tight end is covered up. So on the play, what are you looking for here to make this legal with two different philosophies in play here?
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to treat those two receivers on the top of the screen. We number them from the number on the outside number one, and then the inside is two, and then the tight end would be number three. So we definitely have a stagger between one and two. Two is definitely back. So we 100% are going to put two in the backfield. Okay. And then if we deem the tight end to be back far enough, we would put him in the backfield because we still only have four in the backfield. Now, if we're unsure, this one, I don't know if that tight end's back far enough. So maybe we say he's covered. And then the terminology we use is the line judge is at the top of the screen. So the line judge would just say the tight end is covered to L. So the tight end is covered up on the line judge's side. And that way we know that he's covered. And then you could have a situation with IDP or something like that. We don't need to worry about, and this is something that to clarify, we don't need to worry about the fact that the tight end is a little further back than that number two receiver. If we're putting that number two receiver off, we're not going to compare him to the tight end. So treat that tight end separately. But in our game, if we saw this formation, knowing that the slot and the tight end would still only make four in the backfield, we would probably put this tight end off. But if you don't, put him on, but we need to make sure that that slot is not considered to be on the line of scrimmage and covered up. They're not going to cover up two guys and only have basically two guys in the backfield. that's not a formation that they're gonna ever have in their playbook.
And coaches help the officials out with this tight end here. If he wants to be in the backfield,
Yeah, you got to back
clearly
him up
have him
more.
be in the backfield.
Yeah, you're putting us in a bad spot when he's, that there's that little bit of a stagger between him and the tackle.
All right, next play. This is our challenge play to remind officials what is needed to overturn it. And this is a good example of an overturn. So the ruling on the field was a catch, and the referee and scribe goes into challenge and overturns it to an incomplete catch. So before we get into the challenge part, Monty, let's just remind the staff of what we are looking for to clearly have a catch, and then the philosophy of when in question a catch or not, it's not a catch.
Yeah, we need an element of time from when he possesses that ball to when that ball comes out. And if we don't have that element of time, just make it incomplete. Watching this live, we just do not even we're not close to that element of time. So we would want this to be incomplete on the field. Just makes things a lot easier. If the coach wants a challenge as a catch, he certainly may. He would lose the challenge, but um, other things we look for is, if they're reaching for, the first down marker or something like that. And one way to think about it is if this hit would be like a shoulder to the head and neck area and the ball comes out, if you say that's targeting because that player's defenseless, if he's defenseless, you're saying he's not a runner. So that's one way to think about it. And then the reverse of that would be if you would have that hit to the head and neck area, but not by the crown of the helmet, 'cause we know that that in itself is a foul for targeting. But if we have that high hit and we're saying it's not targeting because he's not defenseless, then we're saying he's completed the catch and he's a runner. But the biggest thing is I would much rather be talking about these plays saying this one is one that's it's long enough. We want this to be a catch because we've had too many this year where we're saying this is not a catch, make it incomplete. So our philosophy is when in doubt, wipe it out. And that, we just don't have the time element to make this a catch.
And then just to expand on the rules here and rule reminder, we have a defensive player who is out of bounds. He has to reestablish himself completely inbounds. Now he can legally touch the ball, pick up the ball, and advance the ball.
Yep. And defensive players are different than offensive players. If that guy if he went out of bounds all by himself, it's not a foul if he comes back in. It's only fouls by, or that's only an issue with team A. So, that's not exactly what happens here, but just remember that the team B, as long as they establish themselves, it doesn't matter if they went out on their own or what the case was.
And this is a great transition to what we're talking about, offensive players going out of bounds and coming back in and touching the football. So though it's a punt play, the kicking team is the offensive team, and you're going to see the kicking team player go out of bounds here with his left foot. So now he's an out of bounds player, comes back in and touches the kick. All right. This is not kick catch interference because there's no receiver in the area to catch it, but we still have a foul for illegal touching. Since we don't see this rule every single day, this play every single day, rule reminder: 5 yards previous spot or 5 yards from the subsequent dead ball spot. Monty, when we were talking earlier, you sort of have a category that you put this type of play in. What was it again on where the category fouls where they have that choice of subsequent dead ball spot or previous spot?
Yeah, I mean, just remember on kick plays, any team a foul except for kick catch interference can be enforced from the previous spot or from the dead ball spot. So KCI is the only one that's a team a foul that does not cannot be enforced from either the previous or the dead ball spot.
All right, that does conclude training tape number 8 for the week. Monty, once again, thank you for your expertise, your knowledge, and your experience to give back to not only our sports officials and football officials, but our players and coaches who watch these training tapes. Safe travels this week, and officials, remember, you're only as good as your last call.